crack of disbelief in her stomach became harder to deny. She was looking at a picture of herself. "Here's where it gets interesting," said the detective. "I did some digging around. Turns out that you, or someone who looks an awful lot like you, are implicated in 4 other arson fires over the past 10 years or so. Local PDs in South Dakota and Maryland still have open files, which means that they're going to want to talk to you too. Along with the charges Alan Shetler's bringing against you, it stacks up quite a bit." Rich stopped when a high pitch broke into breaths of air. He saw she was sobbing and held out a box of Kleenex. She clenched the tissue and covered part of her face. She was having a hard time breathing. "None of this has anything to do with me. I don't know why this is happening, and I don't know what to do." "What I recommend you do, ma'am, is get yourself a lawyer, preferably a good one." Detective Rich handed her a packet of paperwork. The top yellow sheet was a notice to appear in court 2 months to the day in Modesto. He stood and fed his arms through either side of his charcoal blazer, giving her enough time to reassemble herself and the room to find her way out. Jonathan slouched as he read a magazine article about a load of gold found in a shipwrecked Spanish brig off the Gulf Coast. After the BP spill, a shrimp crew got snagged and pulled up a part of a treasure, which was of course taken from them immediately. "That's why you ain't say shit to nobody, never," one of the shrimpers was quoted, much to Jonathan's humor. When he saw the hallway door open, he chucked the magazine and rose to take his girl around the shoulder to get her home. That night, it took another episode of crying, a long shower, Valium, and 4 glasses of wine to soften the strain of her now torturous confusion. Jonathan asked if she was positive she did not have anything to do with the fire. She snapped at him and isolated herself by curling up on the kitchen counter, shouting at him in the other room. She realized how it must have looked. She could not get over these other cases, other fires all over the country. This is when she started crying again. But the shower and the booze helped. Her guard down, she gave into the caress of her legs on Jonathan's lap and wrapped in a blanket. The rhythm of their kissing started slow, and they moved without care from the couch to the bedroom. With a closeless pleasure they created, shot into her, and broke apart the fiery hatred that arose to shield her from the madness of this day. After she came, the two lay sweating in a burgundy sheet. Outside, a thunderstorm broke. It pounded the ground outside the window with rain. For the next 2 months, she searched for a woman that looked exactly like her. It was the only way to stay rooted in undeniable innocence. Otherwise, the pragmatism of her legal defense, the whole drawn-out timeline of this delusion, would have been too painful. She delved into records, trying to find arson suspects in the places mentioned in her case who were in their early 30s and matched her description. There were very few serial arson cases that were not political anyway, and almost none of them by women. She sifted through the reports of thousands of houses that burned each year, from unattended candles to faulty wiring to pirating cable. News databases returned her over again into the sensational headlines of women who burned down wings of maximum security prisons or accidentally made nitroglycerin in their bathtubs. This led her to the several mismanaged crystal meth outfits that raised whole houses straight off their foundations. Then there were your good old-fashioned gasoline fires, which is where she came across 2 very interesting women. Christina Johnson was a black widow who burned the 3 houses and 1 yacht of her rich husbands. But she was caught in Orlando in '98 and served 15 years because a very rare clouded leopard owned by her last husband died in the fire. The other woman was an insurance scammer named Olivia Malvern, who torched her own condo, an unfinished housing development along with it, and then even the office building where she worked. A bit much. Her interest in Olivia grew when she found a notice in a small British newspaper that she had died in a car wreck headed south on 394 from Falmouth out to the